Aloha loves. So I came outside to continue the next part of my story because it's after lunch and my youngest son is he's playing Legos in my studio. So he's in the middle of creating some amazing creation and I didn't want to disrupt his creative flow. So I'm just sitting outside. Plus it's beautiful out here. So my story picks up, so we had moved to Canada. We were living in Canada. I was in grade school, and my childhood was okay. Yeah, my childhood was okay until I was sexually abused as a teenager, and then it wasn't okay. And I really, marvel at how resilient I am. And maybe that's not even fair to say. I think really I marvel more at the makeup of the mind and how it will protect a child, okay, by suppressing all of that heavy, ugly stuff until we're in a place where it's of safety, until we're safe and all that stuff can come up to be processed. So I think it's no accident that I always knew that I had been abused, I remembered mine, but what I'm referring to is children who you'll often hear of adults who didn't know that they were, and then all of a sudden they start having memories, that stuff starts resurfacing. And often it'll happen when you go away to school, or when you move away from your hometown, maybe where the abuse took place. I mean, there's no accident. A lot of it is tied to safety and feeling safe, feeling like you have the support system for that stuff to start coming up to be processed. Okay. So for me, that started happening when I went away to university, first year of university. And it was a lot, and the school I went to the counselors there, and I felt completely broken. I went to the session, I reported everything, and then I never heard from them again. And I thought that was, now as I think about that, I think that's crazy. I think they were really inundated with those types of reports, and they just didn't have the structure, even though the school was it's a very good university, and they definitely, I felt like they had the means, but maybe just not appropriated into that one department. And so I graduated, but I'm so grateful because I am resilient, and I was able to get through school, although I lost all of my scholarships first year. So I had a lot of scholarships to get into university, but within that first year, I wasn't able to keep them into second year, but by third and fourth year, I did graduate with honors. So I did a 4-year degree. I started off in psychology because I thought I'm going to go to school, because I was raised in a way that type of stuff was not talked about, and I felt broken, and I thought, well, I'm going to go, and I couldn't, without kind of revealing it all, I couldn't really go to counseling, and it just really wasn't in my upbringing or anyhow. So I thought, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to study psychology, because then I can fix myself without anybody knowing about it. So needless to say, ended up, I loved psychology, but ended up switching into sociology. So in the end, I did a lot of psychology and sociology, and graduated with a 4-year honors sociology degree on the Dean's Honor List. So that was really good. That was a really good accomplishment. And it was right after I graduated from university that I felt like the abuse, I had reframed it and put it into a place that was okay for now. And I didn't realize that, or maybe I did, but I was scared that a deeper healing needed to take place. It was still I knew that it was suppressing, my mana, my prana, my energy. But I just didn't know how to go about healing. And it wasn't until right after I'd graduated from university that within a year of graduating from university, I got into the career, that I had for many years. It's the career I had until 2 years ago. But I got into like IT consulting, project management, business process reengineering, ERP implementations, all of that. And it was on my first project that I met a girl, and I'm so grateful to her. Her name was Natra, and she introduced me to breath work and to meditation. So I ended up taking the course, and I didn't realize that, I feel like the way these things are marketed, it really no one could have really explained to me how deep the rabbit hole was and how far I was going to go. No one could have, I did not realize that one course was going to be responsible for the biggest spiritual awakening within me, and that it was going to be responsible for me really diving deep and connecting to my spirituality, for me to spiritually awaken, and for me to also heal the sexual abuse. And it did. I dove deep, and I started going to ashrams and studying at the feet of a guru, and then eventually I became a teacher. Okay, and but what was interesting is, and I mean, breath work. You all know this. Breath work and meditation is just so near and dear to my heart. And because it does so much, and I feel like it's breath work is just such a hack to get you squeaky clean on the inside, and to put you into a meditative state where you can just reside in the self and be, for you to be able to, this is what I will tell you. I think this is interesting. The other day I was teaching a group of women in my studio at the back of my house, and we finished doing the practice that I was teaching them, and it takes 5 to 7 to 8 minutes to do, and we were done. And from the time that they had entered to the time that we did that 5 to 7 minute practice, the room completely, the energy went from being like this to just all of a sudden it just went shh, shh, just completely still. There was so much stillness. And what I said to them is, I said, it's not that I love doing breath work. It's not like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to do this breath work. Or when my students are coming in, it's not like I'm like, oh, I cannot wait for them to get here so we can do this breath work. It's not like that. It's kind of like taking a shower or brushing your teeth. It's we do that. So then for the rest of the session, we're just in this super cool energy. It's they're joining me for a time in a state that I reach and thrive in every single day. Because for me, it's a non-negotiable. Every single morning I wake up, brush my teeth, I shower, and I get on my mat and do my practice. Now, sometimes I have 3 kids that I homeschool. So it's mostly my youngest that I homeschool. My older 2, they're now doing online school, and but they're still at home and they still need me. So I make sure my kids are situated if I need to, depending on what time I wake up. If they're all up and they need help with stuff, with breakfast or with school, or logistics about tennis, and then I get them situated, and then I just shut the door. I get into my studio and I do my program. Okay, so now, but getting back to my story, so I felt like the breath work and the meditation, it was like my first spiritual awakening, and it took my healing so far. And then I realized, and this is also normal when you're dealing with abuse, is that when your children are the age that you were when you were abused, stuff may and typically does start coming up for you. So when my oldest was a teenager a few years ago, and he was at that age that I was when I was abused, I knew it just somehow came about that it was time for me to take my healing to a deeper level, because what started showing up was that I wasn't fully healed, that there were still big pieces there that needed to be moved. And I realized that they just needed to be moved, and family dynamics just needed to be rearranged as far as the extended family was concerned. So I went ahead and I did a program. Okay, I found a program, and I did it, or it was more, it felt like the program found me. Okay. And it was heavy. It was heavy. Some of the literature was so eye-opening for me and heavy that I couldn't read it. I had to get it in audio form just so I could listen to it. And I remember the first day that I started the program, I felt like the next day, actually, I felt like I had been in a car accident. It was that dense in my body. It was that heavy and that dense, and I had trouble moving. And I worked through it, and really, I made a commitment that every day, so my children were, I already had the baby, I already had my youngest, because I have 3, and every day we have quiet hour at our house, or we definitely did when they were younger. We don't do it so much anymore, but when they were younger, we had quiet hour, and I would make sure everybody was situated, the older boys on their screens, younger one in his room, you know, reading or playing. I have a video on quiet hour if you want to watch. It's in my Sacred Space series, so you can sign up. It's free, so you can sign up free for it on my website, www.thrives.com, and then find the Sacred Space link and sign up for it, and then all the videos there will open up for you. You'll get a link to a new page in your email, and then you'll see all the videos, including the quiet hour video. And and every day, Monday to Friday, while my husband was at work, I would take the weekends off, but Monday to Friday, for about an hour to an hour and a half, I did the work. And it was painful, but now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so worth it. So worth it. Okay. And I think really what I learned from that lesson, so much I learned from that. I learned compassion. I learned forgiveness. And I learned that forgiveness is not what we think it is. It's really not. And I feel complete. I don't really identify with that event or with a lot of that stuff anymore. And what I learned from it, like an important lesson that I learned from it, is how critical and how potent inner work and mindset work is. Okay? Because the breath work on meditation is such a huge piece, but the inner work and mindset work just completely adds to it. So those 4 pieces together, that's why those are the big pillars in my work now. Okay? And the healing that all of that has brought me, and the richness. So like why focus on this? Like why the healing from that? The reason is because we are light beings, right? We are these beautiful beings that we're born in perfect form. Okay? And that's why children, when you look at them, that's why they are so bright, because they're such clear channels, right? They channel that love, that light, that bliss so beautifully. Okay? And then life events happen. Now, at this point in my life, like I've gone so much deeper into my spirituality, and I've discovered things like soul contracts, and I understand things at a completely different level now. And I think that's why I'm able to have so much compassion. Okay? But, so children are light beings, and then negative life events happen, and they tarnish our light. They create physical blocks within our body. And then those blocks have to be removed. They have to be removed in order for us to be that bright light and to be able to channel clear as a crystal. Okay. So, so that healing took place. And it's definitely led me to the work that I do now. It's so much so that I've actually 2 years ago closed down my corporate practice. I used to have a corporate business with my husband, the IT consulting part, and I've since closed it, and I do this work full time now, just because I see that this is really my life mission. This is really why I'm here, to do this instead, to work with individuals and take away pain for those that are hurting. But it's not even like that. It's just more, let's clean up what needs to be cleaned up. There are things that happened. Okay, let's work through that, and let's move on and help you figure out, like, what is your mission? Like, why are you here? Why are you here? Okay, so I will end there, and then I will create another video I think talking about my experience as a mother and my motherhood story and how I became a mother of 3. Aloha.